This is the tragedy of war, the bombed-out carcass of a city once filled with life. Now a mosaic of destruction, a post-apocalyptic nightmare. Tonight, Russian attacks striking civilian areas. A devastating attack on Chernihiv, 90 miles north of Kyiv. Dashcam footage capturing the moment a projectile strikes. 33 killed, 18 wounded, according to the city's emergency services. If confirmed, it would be the largest single loss of civilian life in this conflict so far. Across Ukraine, the numbers are staggering. As of today, more than 1 million Ukrainians fleeing for their lives as Russian forces decimate their homeland, moving ever closer to the capital of Kyiv. But as Russia's crushing grip on Ukraine tightens, so too is the world tightening its grip on Russia, executing even more sanctions, hitting its coffers from every direction.
Today I'm announcing that we're adding dozens of names to the list, including one of Russia's wealthiest billionaires.
The latest sanctions announced by the Treasury Department today, impacting 19 individuals, including 47 of their family members and close associates. 8 members of Russia's elite are now fully cut off from the U.S. financial system, including Putin's spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, and Elijah Osmanov, who's been called one of Putin's favorite oligarchs. Osmanov, along with his private jet worth at least $350 million, now barred from entry in the United States. The government saying that his Kremlin ties have enabled his luxurious lifestyle. Part of that, his super yacht Dilbar, estimated at upwards of $600 million. Osmanov, in a statement pushing back on sanctions against him, calling them, quote, false and defamatory allegations, and that he'll use all legal means to protect his reputation.
The goal was to maximize the impact on Putin and Russia and to minimize the harm on us and our allies and friends around the world.
The sanctions also are hitting the Russian economy. The ruble is collapsing. Supply chains are being disrupted, things are becoming less available, and the cost of living is skyrocketing.
Forbes estimating Russian billionaires have lost at least $126 billion in wealth since mid-February. Often referred to as oligarchs, Russia's billionaires are thought to control roughly 30% of the country's wealth, according to the National Bureau of Economic Research.
Oligarchs have acquired their wealth in often brutal means in Russia, and they control mostly the natural resource sector of the Russian economy and the production.
Officials have their sights set on Russian assets around the world, seizing them to put pressure on Russia to end the violence. And it's not just sanctions. The DOJ says they will actively pursue anyone with wealth and close ties to Putin.
The message to oligarchs ought to be very, very clear. If you're trying to evade our sanctions, if you're engaging in money laundering, if you're using corrupt proceeds to purchase that yacht, we are coming for you, and we're coming for those assets.
Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco is leading that effort, codenamed Task Force Klepto Capture. What is Task Force Klepto Capture?
What this task force is a commitment from the Department of Justice working across our department as well as across the rest of the government and with international partners to focus on the challenge posed by the efforts of oligarchs and Putin's cronies to evade sanctions, to launder money, and then using our law enforcement tools where we can trace the purchase of those luxury items to criminal activity like sanctions evasion, like money laundering, to go and seize those assets.
How does going after the elite help to stop the war in Ukraine?
I think the point of going after Putin's cronies and Russian oligarchs who seek to violate our laws and shield their assets is to say that nobody is beyond the reach of our system of justice, beyond the reach of our work and cooperation with our allies, and that these cronies and oligarchs who seek to support and bolster the Russian regime shouldn't be able to get away with that while people are dying.
The news comes as talks between Ukraine and Russia today reaching another impasse. My colleague Ian Pannell at a press conference with Ukrainian President Zelensky at a secret location today.
For how long can you hang on?
I don't know, he said. I don't know how long. It doesn't depend on time. it depends on us. But this war is largely in the hands of one man, whose authority has stood mostly unchallenged for more than 2 decades.
When Putin came to power, he wanted to get rid of the oligarchs. And at first we thought it was sort of a sincere desire to normalize the country. But it turned out that his objective was just not to normalize things, but he wanted to become the biggest oligarch himself.
Bill Browder is an author and financier who spent years amassing a fortune investing in Russian companies.
I moved to Moscow in 1996 to set up an investment fund to invest in the newly privatized companies of the former Soviet Union and Russia. It turned out to be a Wild West time to be there, and my investment fund grew to become the largest investment fund in the country. I discovered a large amount of corruption going on in the companies that I was investing in. Oligarchs were stealing from everybody. They were stealing from each other. It was totally unpredictable. But in the early days, it was also kind of exciting.
At the time, Browder says he hoped to expose the bad business practices and corruption of senior officials at many Russian companies. And it was Vladimir Putin who was his ally in exposing that corruption. Until, he says, Putin realized wealthy businessmen were a threat to his power.
When Putin first came to power, he wasn't all powerful. From my perspective as an investor, he became a very valuable person stepping into a number of these highly contentious anti-corruption fights that I was waging against these oligarchs. And as time went on, it became more and more obvious there was something off with him.
He eventually fell out of favor with Putin and was forced to leave the country, eventually accusing the government of attempting to steal millions of tax dollars from his company. He became an anti-corruption activist and the champion for the passing of the Magnitsky Act, which allows the U.S. to sanction foreign government officials for human rights violations.
There's this expression that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that's what happened to Putin. As he got richer and more powerful, the oligarchs were effectively a non-entity to him with one simple exception, which is that he needed a place to put his own money.
Now scrutiny is on other businessmen, even those who haven't been sanctioned. Roman Abramovich, one of the richest men in Russia, recently announced he would sell Chelsea Football Club, one of the premier soccer teams in the world, saying in a statement that proceeds from the sale will go to the victims of war in Ukraine. But some UK officials have threatened that he could be sanctioned next.
Russia is not a diversified economy, and these oligarchs control the key elements of an economy that is not really poised for the 21st century. By cutting off their wealth and cutting off their access to technology, it is an absolutely devastating blow to the coming decades in Russia.
Perhaps this is just a small comfort. As more Russian bombs fall, more Ukrainian cities are destroyed, more lives are lost. And still, the world braces for whatever comes next.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.